Biotic component of ecosystem. The word biotic means living, so we are going to talk about the living components of the ecosystem, which are divided into three types, that is producers, consumers and decomposers. First, let's take a look at the producers. So producers are the autotrophs. Autotrophs means organisms that make their own food. So autotroph in an ecosystem is called as producer because they produce food from themselves as well as for the other members of the ecosystem. The examples of producers are green plant, blue-green algae, that is cyanobacteria, some bacteria and minute free-floating phytoplankton. They are going to perform the process of photosynthesis with the help of chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, water, and they would be utilizing sun's energy for the process of synthesizing organic food. And during this process of photosynthesis, a byproduct is also released, which is oxygen, which is required for all other organisms for the process of respiration. Thus, nutrients and energy enter in the living world through these producers. Let's talk about the role of producers. So producers are going to trap the solar energy and transform it into the chemical energy in food. And these producers are not only the primary source of energy, but they are the only source of atmospheric oxygen for all the living members of the ecosystem. Moving on to the next type, we have consumers. These consumers are going to be completely dependent on producers and they are going to consume the food which is prepared by the producers. All animals, directly or indirectly, are going to depend on these consumers only. So, all animals, including human beings, are coming under the category of consumers and they depend directly or indirectly on the food produced by producers. Consumers are also called as the heterotroph and they are again categorized into three types. The first type of consumer is called as a herbivore, and herbivores are the animals which feed on the plant. They are also called as the primary consumers or the first order consumer. So example of the animals which are going to feed on plants are rabbits, deer, mice, goats, sheep, cattle, horses. So all this would be categorized as herbivores. Even the seed eating birds are called as herbivores because they are directly dependent on the plant product. The zooplankton, which are the small free floating animals, they are going to directly consume the phytoplankton. Hence, they are also called as the herbivores. Mollusks and small fishes are also herbivores in the aquatic ecosystem. Let's talk about the next group of consumers which are called as carnivores. These carnivores are flesh eating animal and they are the animals which are going to prey upon the herbivores, that is the primary consumer, and they are going to eat their flesh. So these flesh eating animals which are going to eat herbivorous animals are called as primary carnivores or the secondary consumer. For example, foxes, snakes, frogs, and small fishes. There are also animals which are going to eat this primary carnivore and they are called as the secondary carnivores or the tertiary consumer. Let's take an example. A snake that is going to feed on a frog. So frog over here is the primary carnivore and the snake is going to be the secondary carnivore because it is feeding on the frog, that is primary carnivore. Or a wolf preying on a fox are all the examples of secondary carnivores or the tertiary consumers. Here we have some other examples of the secondary carnivores, which is peacock, owl, tiger, lion, and many other fishes. Now, these secondary carnivores are also sometimes eaten by other carnivores. So, these carnivores would be then referred to as the top carnivore or the last order carnivore or quaternary consumer, and these quaternary consumers will not be eaten by any other animal because of their size or ferociousness. Like example, shark, crocodile, eagle, all these are going to be the top order carnivore. Here we have an example. So the grass is a producer An insect is going to be a herbivore, that is the primary consumer. Then we have secondary consumer, which is the frog, which is primary carnivore. Then we have tertiary consumer, which is the snake, and we call it as the secondary carnivore. After that, we have the quaternary consumer, which is the top carnivore, and here in this case it is peacock. Here we have the next type of consumer, that is omnivores. Omnivores are such animals which are going to eat both plants as well as other animals, and hence they are called as omnivores. Dogs, human beings and bears are example of omnivores because they consume both plant as well as animal. Then we have other category which is called as scavenger. The scavengers are the animals which are going to feed on the flesh of dead animal, and examples are vulture, crows, hyenas. Now let's talk about other group of organism which is called as parasite, and this special type of organisms could belong to different groups of bacteria, fungus, viruses or other small animals. Now these parasites are going to obtain their nutrition from other organisms without killing them, and these living organisms which are going to provide them the nourishment are referred to as the host organism. Common examples of parasites are mosquito, louse, bedbug, leech, plasmodium, tinea and ascaris. Now we know about mosquito, right? Mosquito is going to feed on the human blood. So human in this case is going to be the host, whereas mosquito is going to be the parasite. Now let's talk about the role of consumers. So this consumers are going to keep a check on the population of producers and of different levels of consumers. Next, we also had scavengers in them. So scavengers are going to eat the bodies of dead animal and they are going to keep the environment clean. So these are some roles of consumers. Now let's move towards the next group of organisms which are called as decomposers. So these decomposers are certain microorganisms like bacteria and fungus which are going to break down the complex organic compound from the bodies of dead animal, decaying remain of plant and from the fecal matter of animal into the simple inorganic substances, and in this way they are going to help in the nutrients recycling. Now these microorganisms are going to absorb some of the decomposed product, and other products they are going to release it into the environment. So these products could be again utilized by the producers. Moving towards the transformers. So transformers are special group of bacteria which disintegrate the simple organic substances into inorganic form that are suitable for the reuse by the producers. And these decomposers and transformers together are going to play a very important role in maintaining the dynamic nature of the ecosystem. Now let's talk about the role of decomposers. So decomposers are going to decompose the dead body of animals and plants, and thus they are going to clean the environment. And then they are also going to help in recycling the material in the biosphere, and they are going to play a very important part in biogeochemical or nutrient cycles. Then there are also certain decomposers who are very helpful in maintaining the fertility of soil because they are going to add this broken down nutrients back into the soil. So if there were no decomposers, earth would have been just a heap of dead organisms.